Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. So it's cooling off here in the Kansas City metropolitan area. So we're going to go to something that's a sensitive topic. Especially in law enforcement. I'm just going to turn this up a little. That should be good. So when officers sometimes confuse or get confused on how law enforcement actually works. And again, when people develop, get jaded, maybe become narcissist or are narcissist, and then they come into their own and have power, they begin operating differently. And that kind of power is actually anti-power. The way you treat people and what people's perception is. And again, you'll say, well, I've tried this program. We've tried to get the people happy about who we are. They can feel you. You're not hiding anything. And of course, some of that feeling is confused. But yeah, not overwhelmingly. You're cursing them off. You're cursing their families off. If you're all about yourself and you project, you'll automatically curse everyone else or curse everyone else off. Like, what have you done for me lately? And the only people that you won't curse off is people that are elevating you. That's one thing. Then the physical interaction, traffic stops, things like that. You can't go overboard on that. There's a point of diminishing returns. Like broken windows only works to a certain level. And again, don't throw statistics at me. I know how the law enforcement statistics system's working. You can make it what you want it to be. Actually, some people actually were charged with doing something like that. Well, the only time it works is when we're, down on these people. When we do this or do that, because that's the way you want it to be. But the question is that really working? Or is that what you want to do? And then you skew the statistics. So that's the only thing that looks like it works. Again, even the FBI was guilty of that. I know that for a fact. So again, criminal investigators that are real, not these bullshit make it happen people and then arrest somebody after they force them into crime after 10, 20, 30 years. Or cut down every other option in their life and just keep yelling in their head for them to rob a bank or hold somebody up or sell drugs. That's really what's happening. The way it works is you never know who's going to give you information, especially as a criminal investigator. But you're not going to get information. In other words, they're propping up their system by destroying the real system of law enforcement and investigation. Because they're not going to help you. Because they remember when you treated them poorly. Now, a lot of law enforcement officers, well, they should really respect that we're law enforcement and we're trying to help everyone. No, you're not. You're trying to help yourselves and help them out of everything they could have because you have something in your head that says this person's down, that person's up, and that's the way it has to be. So you never know who's going to tell you what. But if you're a jerk to the people, they're not going to tell you anything. And before you point at, the heroin use and the fentanyl use, the elite, somewhere in the elites is a group of people that are blessing that for money and bringing that in. And then some are just turning a blind eye. Now, elites include people in law enforcement. Don't just point at the Democrats. See, the Republicans reveal themselves. Everything the Republicans, or mostly everything the Republicans project, they have a hand in it somehow. Or say, and it's a projection. Where they force somebody else into something, or they themselves are involved. Well, how can we be involved? We're the ones that are coming against it. People like Trump and Ramaswamy, they believe they're there because they deserve it and that they were blessed into it and that they're a special person. But they're not really that special. They were just given way by something that probably knew they were jerks. But in their mind, if you're using drugs, you're a loser. But yet, in their system, it's built in that that person is hated and to use drugs. At this point, I believe the mindset of a physical chemical warfare program is here in the United States to take out the people. In other words, that's just another Democratic Party voter to them. But yet some of the Democrats are involved for their purposes and their reasonings. And it may just be money. There's no way that it's getting in like it is without having law enforcement and government and elites involved. Republicans are elites. I mean, Trump's walking around with elitist mentality that he shouldn't be prosecuted because he's an elite president. So again, I think whether he's, found guilty or not, I think that's the next step for our nation, moving it forward into equality and justice. Now, again, because they'll try to paint me a certain way, I don't believe everybody should be prosecuted. I'm the one that said, hey, let Trump be president. Stop trying to prosecute him. And the Republican Party did agree with that. And I think the Democratic Party agree with it also at a certain point, not all of them. But at a certain point, you're going to have to allow the person that's elected to be president. Oh, but then you just become a personal operator. I mean, you're elected to offices, you're appointed positions. In other words, out here, there's officers that are Republicans that go after Democrats. I was in law enforcement. They actually say that. Pulled over another Democrat. I told you when my kids started picking up on that, I'm like, whoa, that's not what we meant. Because Democrats were people that, for some reason, I don't even know where they got it from because that's not where we were. My kids actually thought, they happened to be black, which was weird. And I don't think that's what they were thinking. But they had their shirts off and they were going into a store. So my kids said they were Democrats. I don't know, unless my wife said something. She was pretty silent when I told my kids no. That you don't say that. But I mean, kids don't understand what it means. And I don't even think, you know, Prigozhin. Did you see the piece where he was speaking about the afterlife and laughing about hell? But it revealed how ignorant he is. I mean, he's really ignorant, very ignorant. I mean, he polished his ignorance in his later days, I guess, and people, found him maybe a little bit intelligent. Now, I'm not saying militarily that he didn't have some ability and had awareness, but as a person, he's very ignorant. When you see that as a seer, you should realize that he may not even be in control of his own life. Again, that Hitler thing I spoke about, how Europe wanted the Jews in the ghettos for centuries, probably a couple of ages on and off. As we go into secular meaning of ages, or secular definition of ages, or ages as defined secularly. Well, the idea is that Hitler may have just been possessed, as much as you want to hate him. And that's how he waltzed across Europe, because everybody was into what he was into at that point. They have been for ages. But it went a little further than they would have wanted it, including taking over their countries. Inside, they wanted the Jews in the ghetto. And then who made the big money off of World War II? The Swiss. They were not neutral in the mind, I'm sure. The Swiss made out better than Adolf Hitler. I'm listening to spirits. They're all projecting at me. So we go back to the law enforcement entities. Again, some people are possessed and some people are the possessors. But yet some people aren't part of it. But again, they may not last long in law enforcement. So when we engage in criminal investigation, the longer harassment of the people goes on, the less information we have in, and then we have to use this other method. And then you're going to use it for your subvert the methods for your own criminal purposes. Is it's happening. Don't point to me that you're saving the world. You're saving the world into hell. That's what you're doing. So that teacher, I guess, carrying on that relationship for some time, but you see this in law enforcement. We saw it in the captain that was on the FBI task force, I think it was. Now, it was a sex crime task force. I think it was FBI. He turned out to be the most prolific child pornography collector in the entire world. Well, I've been around FBI agents, and they'll play you sexually to get you where they want you. Again, if you connect to a woman sexually and she's a devil, she'll manipulate your sexuality because she has into that connection. That's why Jews will, like the Orthodox Jews, they stay together. It's a metaphysical protection. And some of them are racist. I realize that, and all the other things. But because it's their own, they're connected to their own. Now that has fallen over the years, and they're having some issues. But I think it's kind of the fringe, and they're not really connected to everyone else. They went off on their own thing. So mainstream Orthodox Jews are connected and together, and it's kind of like circling your wagons, so that those connections don't get in. So there are federal agents and law enforcement officers that will try to get you interested in them, and then try to turn you on. And then once they get that connection into that metaphysical channel, They'll try to make you gay. They'll try to make you a pedophile, whatever they dream up that day, or what Satan puts in their head. Now, they may look great on the outside. Again, the idea that I put on the Jerusalem Post there, that God's not looking at the outside because that's where Satan manipulates and steers. So again, anybody that manipulates another person into a quote unquote sexual sin carries that sin, not the person that's manipulated. So that's where we see a confusion in Ezekiel 34. Most churches and synagogues see themselves as those good people, not the shepherds of Israel. But if you're manipulative inside or out to a certain degree, then you're that shepherd of Israel, not healing the people, pushing them away. That's what's going on with the narcotics, and it's not all metaphysical. There are people that don't want the narcotics cleaned up. First, some people are making money. Second, people can use that politically. Third, it's killing Democrats. That's the way they see it. But again, it's the same way with alienating the public and criminal investigation. If you didn't do that, they might actually be Republicans. Something's making noise here. I got a couple things charging in here. It's probably my battery from my camera system in my vehicle. I have a couple large lithium batteries that I power my. It's about 48 hours per charge for my video system. It's a homemade Tesla. I have cameras in there. I don't hide them. I mean, you can see them. That's the best deterrence anyway. So it is what it is. So the idea is we had the Scorpion people, the Scorpion organization, whatever they call it. It was just essentially a high intensity crime task force, or high intensity. What I call it? High intensity. I don't remember the word I used. I can actually look at it here. I got my phone. But that's where you have to get to. You have to name it something so that people understand and you understand what the limitations are of what it is. Well, the timing, and it may have been going on all along, I don't know, but the timing times with the guy that was killed. So we have to be careful. I'm not telling you not to do it. I mean, you obviously you have to get weapons off the streets, firearms off the street. Trying to find that there. I got to get back to that subject. Yeah, my inference is, and I had a conversation inside with some law enforcement officers, the Harford County case. The inference is that we missed, and it's telling me that you have the photo, and I don't think you do because you let the public see it, I imagine. Right. So again, there is this weird thing saying, "Oh no, they got the photo. Don't worry, don't say anything." The suspect, he in California, I think it was, and I think in Harford County somewhere, he came up on camera somewhere. Did you look at Walmarts and stuff? You just go like crazy looking for video of possible suspects? Those are common places like Walmarts and Targets. And I tell you the truth, because he's, I hate to do that, but we have to be where it is. Have you come to the conclusion that he's Hispanic, or do you think he could possibly also be like Italian or something? That's another question. To me, he either works out at a gym or he's a laborer. And we see, a little bit of that in the laborer community, the immigrant laborer community. Again, it's what's in their mind from where they left. They leave. Sometimes they leave oppression, but they don't leave being the oppressor behind. So again, he's either been in a jam or he's been a laborer or both, which would fit for his ability to move around. Just picking up some labor and talk to a couple Spanish people at the Spanish store. So the Latino store, whatever it is. So that would be another location to possibly see if he showed up there. Because immigrants seek other immigrants, especially when something like that's going on. I don't know if he is. It could be like Italian or something. But he does kind of look Hispanic from that. Or Portuguese or something. Apparently, there's a Portuguese refugee community around here, I think, or immigrant community. So it's kind of. I wish I did, again, when you curse me off, I don't get my blips. So again, hindsight is 20, but hindsight is actually foresight. You can receive hindsight. So I would have got a blip maybe I would have found that news article somewhere and said, hey, I think we need to look around, for more video. And I could have said, hey, go to the Latino stores, go to Walmart, I guess Kmart's not even around, I don't think, Target. I don't know where it was, but a high intensity enforcement. There it is, high intensity enforcement area, task force or something like that, or whatever is going on. There are limitations. Because if you become overly aggressive, then more people will be prone not to help us. And they might purchase firearms because they become paranoid because you're making them paranoid. Some officers actually do that to victims in the hopes that they'll act out poorly and harm somebody or harm themselves. We got to be in reality. There's no other place to be. So although we want firearms off the street, we want to keep the community that can help us with those firearms, thinking that they're part of a larger societal machine. Again, you're putting people out of the societal machine on purpose, all of you. So it's not a bad idea. If we get to the level where a law enforcement officer is shot, that means two things have happened. Again, the psychological degradation is already occurring, which means law enforcement officer is not considered somebody not to shoot. And again, it's been hot. People dehydrate. So, that kind of messaging is important, reminding people to drink water, to stay hydrated. If they feel, most people don't know if they feel a little bit off, it could just be dehydration. They just don't know. So law enforcement and the others should keep speaking about that, putting those messages out to the people so they can keep their minds about themselves. And especially meth users, they need to drink a lot of liquids. Part of what goes on in their mind when they go crazy is the dehydration. So again, it appears Kansas City and the region here, Johnson County and other places, does have a continuing problem with firearms, and it could be left over from that big organization that was arrested and prosecuted and I guess convicted, and they're in prison now. So there's nothing wrong with high intensity operations, but you have to keep it all in perspective. I mean, you'll find a lot of reasons to pull people over because they're poor. One thing in Santa Fe, they every so often pull people over, but if you knew the number of people they could pull over, they can pull over like almost, I mean, probably at least 50% of the people, and they, based upon something. They just don't do it. They know they're poor. What am I going to? They figure, what am I going to pull people over because they're poor? When a rich person, has all that money and they just drive around cursing everybody to be poor to begin with, and they get the spend. That's what they think. It's funny. It's funny for some of these rich psychos. Plenty of them in Santa Fe, including that Ballas Enterprises. So that is what it is. So again, you'll find, especially right now with the inflation and all the craziness going on in the economy, you'll find a lot of people that have a mess when it comes to their vehicle. I recommended that we take some of the funding that we use to help people financially and put it in a fund for registration and insurance for low income and no income people. And no income would be hard to, I guess no income would be people that are disabled, that kind of. Although they have some income, it's not very much. So what we do is we take that money and we allocate it to insurance, registration, have just the same way of Medicaid. But it involves so you again, when people are disabled, they get like, I don't know what they get now. They were getting $750, $800 a month, and then a little bit of food stamps or SNAP. So what we would do then, we would supplement their income with subsidized insurance, and it would be like a Medicaid. It wouldn't be the most extravagant insurance on earth, but it would be insurance, and they couldn't mess it up. They couldn't decide, hey, we need an extra pizza or something tonight, and they have a right to want a pizza. Again, that's their lot in life, and they have a right to feel like they need pizza one day, but that pizza might be more important to them, for them and their kids on a child's birthday or something, than the insurance. We'll get to the pizza another day, but we need to make sure they carry insurance in their vehicle and their vehicles are registered and all of that. So it would be like a Medicaid type of package, but it would be for car insurance, registration. And that way we would have less reason to pull them over. Well, I mean, your goal is to pull over poor people, but obviously the person bringing the narcotics in is very wealthy, probably living out there with the millionaires, multimillionaires. So again, the little game doesn't work when you can see. Because now you can see. Now you know why they hate me. That's their problem, not mine. So again, that's just a mindful thing that you're going to be probably confronted in a high intensity task force with pulling over poor people. And you get into that mode where you have law enforcement, black people that hate what they consider poor, ignorant black people. I think we had a little of that going on in the Scorpions, or Scorpion, whatever they called it. And we don't know if he was targeted. They've been trying to push his buttons for a while. They just, again, Satan's out there. And if you're in a position of power or anti-power at that point, Satan will get in your mind all day and tell you to take that guy out. They may have been following him and turning their sirens on around him for 4 or 5 years. Trying to freak him out. Actually, here's the guy I was talking about. I have it in my online photo gallery. This was the one. Guy with the kid. That was the guy that I think Kim Potter theoretically accidentally shot. Get to his name. Let me search this. They're willing into my apartment. They're willing into my room. They will search warrants. It's pretty funny. That's what that was a cue for too. Or also unspit on too. Unspit on. Everything I say is like a cue. Actually, there's something wrong with you. You will let into it. That's why the gifts don't work, because law enforcement wills people to say things that they can take out of context of what's being said. Again, if you're not doing it, I wouldn't talk about it. But talk is cheap. I speak. I wouldn't speak about it. Fix that. Kim Potter. Like I said, she looked pretty good coming out of that jail. Again, I needed to get out of the government. They were killing me. So, it's bad, but it was good because it was a better option as to what would probably happen. Oh, they were killing me, man. They killed gentlemen. All right, Kim Potter. What was the guy's name? Yeah, she looks a lot better now. She does. Hey, who knows what was going on in her life? The job could have been killing her. I got to sign in with Google here. Oh, God, you want money now? Well, you said I could read it. Okay, there. I don't want the offer. Epic times. 2. Now wants to send me messages. No, get out of here. Okay, Dante Wright. Okay, I want to make sure I remember his name.